Hi guys. Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday, guys. Happy Sunday. It's raining in St. Louis, but it's very peaceful. I love the rain, y'all. Love the rain. So we're just gonna wait on a few people to join before we get started. Hello, everybody. Happy Sunday, happy Sunday. Thanks for tuning in. All right. Thanks for tuning in to Solution Sundays. I'm Clanisha, artist, owner of Bliss Financial Solutions, where we specialize in credit repair and business consulting. I would say each and every Sunday, but we have 2 more episodes. So each and every Sunday we'll be here at 2 p.m. But for the next 2 more episodes, we're on our 8th episode. Okay, it has been a nice little time. Me sharing this information for 8 Sundays. So without further ado, let's jump into it. So we have 2 more Sundays. So each and every Sunday for the next 2 episodes will be here at 2 p.m. So tune in for your business hacks and your credit tips. Okay. So without further ado, let's jump into it. Okay, let's talk about when getting sued, right? What are our options? So whenever we do get sued, there's still some time, right? Before, when you receive that paperwork in the mail, when you're being served or things like that, be sure to send that debt validation still, right? So you still have some time. You want to do that to make sure that they are notifying the correct person, they have the correct information, everything on file is correct and accurate. If not, then this lawsuit will be ineffective, right? So please do still send out that debt validation to get a verification, right? So let's make sure that everything on file that they're asking for before being sued, the amounts being correct, the name being correct, your address being correct, because if they have the wrong address or not the current address, not your employer information, how much the balance is, who the creditor is, if it's a third party, depending on what's going on. But be sure that all the information that they're suing you for is accurate. And show up to court. Worst case scenario, you can just set up a payment arrangement, things of that sort. So I wouldn't get too discouraged if a company is starting the process of a lawsuit against you. So you still have options. So yeah, please show up to court. Don't run and hide, because if you don't show up to court, it's an automatic judgment. So don't not show up, and don't give them the power of just saying, hey, you owe us, and putting on your credit, getting garnishments, things like that. So let's before we even get to the process, let's make sure that, you know, when we do see those letters in the mail, that we are sending out debt validation letters, and, you know, just making sure that they have the right person and the right information on file before even getting to a lawsuit. However, if you do, please make sure you do show up to court. I mean, worst case scenario, you can just say they have the wrong information, it's the wrong person, or you didn't authorize those transactions, or just something of that nature. Like, you have options. So be sure to go to court. Don't not go to court. If you don't go to court, it's an automatic judgment. So don't do that. Okay, I always talk about when you are carrying a balance from your credit cards every month. So I always say, you know, pay them off. If you can't pay them off, then, you know, you have to, you know, stop making transactions and things like that, but pay it down. Okay, so when you cannot pay that balance of your credit card off, what do, right? First and foremost, make sure that you're, 1, still making that minimum payment. 2, you are still paying something down, right? So still paying that minimum due before that statement date. Okay, make sure the statement date, not due date, because after due date is pretty much interest and everything of that nature. So making sure that we are paying these balances down by the due date. The most you should be, or the minimum you should be paying is at least your minimum balance due by the statement date. Okay. Um, and once you do make that payment for your statement date, before your statement date, one that's already making sure that your payment is paid before the due date, right? So once it's like a double whammy. So we're making that payment before the statement date is closed, and we also are making that first that minimum payment for that month, right? But no more transactions. Like, don't pay it down, then use that balance again, and use that credit limit again, and now you're basically just reversing what you just did, right? So if you have a balance carrying over for the next month, stop transactions. Do not keep adding to the problem, right? So don't keep making those making charges. Don't keep doing that because it will just dig the hole deeper, right? So no more transactions once you do that. So you have options, right? So after you pay that amount by the statement date, you can make another payment after the due date to make that your next payment for that next month to avoid a late payment, right? So if you don't make your payment, or if you're failing to make a payment of your due date, then you will accumulate a late fee. So now you have a late fee and you're not making your minimum payment. So that could be up to $35 depending on your credit card company. And we just don't want that. 30 days, 90 days, 60 days, those are reported to your credit, right? So we don't want that. We want to at least make that minimum payment before your closing date. So we call it closing date and the statement date are the same days. Are the same things. Some companies are usually interchangeable. So be sure to make that payment before your closing date, statement date, right? Because one, it'll already make sure your due date payment is already satisfied, right? And then if you make a payment after that due date, that'll be considered your next month payment, right? So now you have your minimum payment due and your next month payment due. Payment satisfied. So now you keep making payments on that whenever you can to make that reporting balance lower than what you had before, right? I hope this makes sense. Does anybody have any questions? Anybody have any questions? Okay. So, make those payments. If you cannot make those payments before your due date, before your statement closes, please make sure you're paying it before your due date. And sometimes that could be worst case scenario because now it's already reporting a higher utilization, and you don't want that. So you want to make that payment before your statement date is closed, and then you want to make that payment before your due date. So after that due date, after that statement date and due date, you want to make another payment, right? So now your balance is reporting lower, right? So that balance should be reported lower by that statement date. Because by the due date, it's already been reported. So now, which is sometimes in between your statement date, your opening date and your closing date. So sometimes your due date is typically in the middle of that, right? So which is kind of weird. So you gotta be mindful of your statement dates, opening dates, and your closing dates, and your due dates. Okay, so check on your statement and see when they are reporting. If you don't find it on your statement date, then call them and say, hey, when do you guys report to the credit bureaus? They'll be happy to tell you. Okay. Charge-offs. Let's talk about charge-offs. So a charge-off just basically means the company just written it off to say that they couldn't get the money for your bill. So what that means is, let's say you have a credit card. All right, so you stopped paying on it, you got closed for inactivity, or you just was late, couldn't keep up with the payments, and then they just charged it off. So what that means is at the end of the year, they put on their financial statement that there was a loss. They lost this amount of money, so they can't be held accountable for paying taxes on that amount, right? So what that means is it'll be listed on your account as a charge-off. So sometimes when those charge-offs, sometimes after those charge-off, companies sell that information to a third party, and then the third party contacts you and say, hey, I'm trying to get money for such and such, which is the original creditor. So throughout that process of buying that, or your information being sold to that third party, so much information can be lost within that transfer, which is later on could be grounds for deletion when it comes to credit repair, right? So some information could be lost, and once that transfer happens, sometimes your signature could be lost, some information on your contract could be lost, and then this third party cannot say we have the full contract, we have all the information needed to verify this information. So that could be a way of getting those accounts deleted, okay? Because those third parties do not have the correct information once it's being sold, okay? And sometimes these companies sell your information for pennies on the dollar because they didn't make any money. So they make some type of money after they consider it as a charge-off, right? Any questions? Any questions? I'm probably going a little bit fast, but I hope you have given this information. So the less information that they have, the less they can verify, right? Those third parties, those creditors, anybody, the less information that they have, they cannot verify, which will be grounds for deletion when you are on your credit repair journey, whether you're doing it yourself or hiring somebody to do it for you. Okay, so updating your income. You always want to update your income. So when you do request a credit increase on your credit card, you have to make sure that your information is being updated, right? So what that means, please update your income. Please update your how much you owe in as far as like when you're reporting your rent. Okay, so all when you're updating your information, sometimes if you have more of a income, they want to typically see more of income but less liabilities, right? So that's how they get you to get a increase in your credit, right? So sometimes they get this information from you getting married, or you got a raise, or things like that. So or if you accumulated some money, if someone passed away, or something of that nature. So with whatever information you have been reporting lately, your credit card company can find that information. I mean, it's all public, right? So this is how they can say yay or nay if one, you have a decrease in income or increase in income. So typically, sometimes they see that information and then they give you that increase. Sometimes it can be automatic, right? So when they see that information that you have accumulated more of the income, then they'll automatically update your or increase your credit limit. So that's always good. Our data is being sold every day, all day, whenever. Like, it's crazy how these companies can see everything from top to bottom if they chose to, just to see if you qualify for their credit. So 2 huge mistakes when applying for credit that we typically make. So one, our income, like I told you, and our rent or mortgage payment. So when you're filling out an application to apply for credit, typically they ask you the 2 most important questions. So what is your annual income, and how much do you pay in rent or mortgage, right? So once again, we want to make sure that that information is accurate and up to date, right? So making sure that so when you apply you can use everybody's income of their household. So, for instance, rent. If you're rent, um, you can use your spouses and someone and those who are over 21 that has a job, and yours. All right. So, if your rent is $200 or $300. I'm sorry. If your rent is $300, if your rent is $300 and you have 3 people in your household, including yourself, so you, yourself, and your spouse. I mean, your spouse, yourself, and your daughter who's over 21 who has a job. If you guys are paying rent in that household, each person is liable for $100 in rent. So when you fill out the application, you're saying that your income and your responsibility for the rent is $100. So if you're making $40,000 and your rent is only $100, then typically you're gonna get more of a credit limit because you don't have that much of a liability, right? So please make sure you are utilizing that information properly, right, to get those credit limits. But however, if please be accurate, right, and be legitimate about it, right? So we're not just trying to get credit just because and using it wrongly, and everything has to be accurate and everything needs to be liable, right? So everything needs to be accurate, because you don't want to report that your income is $90,000. I mean, it depends on if they are gonna check it later on, because some companies will be like, hey, well, last year you said you made $75,000. Now you said 90, which could be correct. But however, if you're gonna report your income to be higher than it was last year, don't make it too of a huge significance, right? So we want it to be, doable. But you don't want to be reporting inaccurate information, right? So with that being said, your rent needs to be lower. That could be something that you can put like, okay, I don't have a huge portion of rent. I make a lot of money, So that's like a good utilization on their part. Like, okay, well, she makes $40,000 and her rent's only $100, so she don't have much of a liability. So we can extend her this credit amount, and yeah. So be mindful of that. Like I said, you can report your rent divided by you, your spouse, and whoever's of the age of 21, right? And when you're applying for those credit cards, your income, you can include your income as your spouse's, because you guys are married, right? So you can include your income and your spouse's income on those applications. So if your husband makes $40,000 a piece, there you go. $80,000 now is your annual income, and your rent is only $100. Right? That's amazing. So they're gonna be like, okay, well, she doesn't have much of liability, so let's extend this amount to her. But making sure that when you do get those limits, right, we need to make sure that we're not overdoing it. Now we have balances, and we're having trouble with making the next payment, the following payment. Now we have interest. Now we have to stop making transactions because now we're robbing Peter to pay Paul. We was in the same predicament there, and now you're calling me like, hey, Kanisha, I need your help with credit repair, right? So let's not get too much credit that we are not going to use responsibly. If you do have great credit limits, that's great, but making sure we're being responsible when it comes to credit repair. I mean, when it comes to credit, we want to bliss to great credit, right? This is what I'm here for. But don't be calling me because you knew what you were doing and you like, hey, I need you to get these things removed. Now I need some help. Okay, now it's like, okay, now you're just being irresponsible. You knew what you were doing at first. Now we need to, now you want my help when you already knew that you should have handled that responsibly. Okay, but that's not here or there. So the more you spend on the credit card and pay back, the more you seem more responsible. Okay, so let's say you have a credit limit of 500, right? You have a credit limit of 500. You pay it all off before your statement date closes. After that statement date, use it again. 500, paying it off, using it back in. After your statement dates, paying it off. and using it back again. So that's very responsible. So the more, that could be a hack that you guys can use. The more you spend, the more they will give you. So every time you paying that money back, taking it back out, paying it back on time, they're like, okay, you're responsible. So now you have grounds for a credit increase. Sometimes they'll give you a credit increase automatically, right? But then if you got your credit increase, you have to wait at least 90 days to request another increase, right? So be mindful of those things, making sure that you are paying your balances back. If you can't, then stop making transactions and start paying it down. Making sure that you are still making your minimum payment before that statement date is closed, right? Because after that statement is closed, now you're reporting that huge balance that you have, and you could have paid it down a little bit, at least made your minimum payment, and then after your minimum payment, made another payment. So now it's lowering your utilization, right? So let's be mindful of that. Any questions? Any questions? Thank you for tuning in, y'all. Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday. You have any questions? Okay. Okay. You got me. You got me. I hope I'm not confusing you. I hope you got me. Hope you understand. Okay. So, a business tip for today. Any questions before I jump into it? Any questions? Any questions, guys? Any questions? Got me. Got me. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So, we have 2 more episodes before this series is complete. But be sure to reach out to me if you have any other additional questions, whether it pertains to business, whether it pertains to credit. I'm here to help you. You can always call me at 800-784-1334. Check out my website at blissfinancialsolutions.com. We have some starter cards on there. It's a lot of important information on my website. And if you don't want to read it, you want like, hey Nisha, I need a starter card. I don't want to go through all that and reading stuff. Just let me know what I can do, what I'm capable of doing. What are my options? Feel free to reach out to me. So credit tip for today, right? So let's make sure let's retrack everything our steps. So we got our LLC, we got our EIN. What's funny? What's funny? So we got EIN, we got our LLC, we got our business accounts. We are reporting our revenue. We have our Duns and Bradstreet numbers. What else? We have our credit accounts reporting. We're there now. So what next? So making sure we have those 3 to 5 accounts reported. After that, you want to figure out your amount of what you can afford if you want to jump into getting lines of credit, right? So once we have there are so many lines of credit out here that you guys can jump into before you go and get a car or things of that nature. There are so many options, and feel free to reach out to me. But however, I got a call this morning, and they were like, I'm starting from scratch, so I don't know what I'm doing. So I told them all this information I just told you guys. But however, he's stuck. Like, okay, I have reporting. I have accounts reporting. What do I do next? Well, keep those accounts coming. Keep paying those. Get some more accounts. The more you have, the more you're more responsible when it comes to business credit. However, we want to get away from being a PG on our businesses, right? So we want everything to be separate. We want your business separate from your business profile, separate from your personal, right? So making sure that you are checking into your NAS, making sure that everything on your Duns and Bradstreet numbers and profiles are accurate. And if they're not, then you need to be calling them and say, hey, this is not my information. This is being reported inaccurately. Because we don't know. Sometimes we think everything is good, but then we're going to apply for credit, and it's like, oh man, I'm getting denied. What's going on? Now it's kind of too late, but not too late, because we have to figure out what the process is. What's stopping us to get approved for this credit. But you have to have some type of revenue being reported in your business account. So we need to make sure that we are making those deposits. We are making sure our employees are being paid correctly, right? Don't be afraid to file your business file your business on your taxes. You can do a Schedule C, you can do 1099s. You have so much for your employees. You have so much so many write-offs, so many credits that you guys can have. So don't be too afraid to add your business on your personal tax returns. So after you have been reporting a loss or whatever when it comes to your expenses, when you're doing your taxes, you are eventually going to have to say you are making a profit, because you are. When you are making these profits, you can file your taxes quarterly. You don't necessarily have to file your taxes annually. It just depends on what you want to do. Filing annually could be helpful because it can be more accurate for you to understand, like, okay, if I spend this amount of money, I'm going to have this amount of money in taxes to pay. Like, sometimes annually is kind of like a little bit too late, but it just depends on your circumstances. And I'm not a accountant, so please be sure to grab you one, and they'll tell you your different options. But please be sure that we have all those things in order, and we are reporting accurately, right? So all of our stuff being legible, all of our stuff being legal, right? You need to make sure if you have a bond, if you need a bond for your specific niche, that you can get those. You can get them on bonds.com. There's so many bonds you can get for less than nothing. But however, they do go off your credit, right? But there are sometimes some places that have bonds that don't go off your credit. But we want to steer away from that, okay? What else? Any other questions? Any other questions? Any other questions? So another business tip. Don't be afraid to jumpstart it. Don't be afraid to jumpstart it. You're gonna have to fall. You're gonna have to get back up. You're gonna start it today, not yesterday. Start it today and not tomorrow. Let's get it started. But yeah, so let's jump into it. Every next Sunday, I'll be here, and we'll talk more about business tips. I just wanted to get on here and talk about those things that was more credit on my heart today. So I'm going to get up out of here. If you have any questions. Oh, and I have a book on Amazon that's called How to Secure That Loan. Okay, so that is $9.99. It has information pertaining to business loans, what information you want to look into, and please feel free to look at it. I think it's $9.99, so it's $10. Best $10 you're gonna spend. Okay, and if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'm gonna head out of here, guys. And if you have any business questions, feel free to contact me. If you're not really sure on where you are in your credit journey, I'm here to help. Like, you can have 2 accounts on your account, and then we can look into it. You don't have to pay the full $130 if you don't have that many accounts. So yeah, business tips. You're gonna be here next Sunday. I got you. Next Sunday. And if you have any questions before next Sunday, feel free to inbox me. I'm here to help. Okay? But I might have to charge you a little consulting fee, okay? But feel free to reach out to me. Okay? So I'm gonna head up out of here, guys. See you next Sunday at 2 p.m. All right, guys. See you soon. Bye.